Welcome to New Mexico Black Rifle Operators Union. I'm your host, Sean. So with the adoption of the new M5, it seems that I mentioned this last night's podcast, or yesterday's podcast, that we're in this constant cycle of intermediate cartridge and full-size cartridge, full power cartridge. Starting in like the early 50s to now, we seem to keep getting in this cyclical cycle. If you look at all the new hotness on all the new gun mags, like I do, because I surf the web and I check out gun mags everywhere I go, because, well, I guess weapons really are part of my religion. But with that, I've noticed that AR-10 style rifles and full battle rifles are getting to be more popular and more mainstream. Now, in different calibers, some of them are in the 6.8 Fury, mostly SIG, because they won't let that out to anybody else yet. I imagine they will eventually. But in the AR-10, what I'm seeing is 6.5 Creedmoor and 308. What's funny is the people that are building 6.5 Creedmoor usually think they're some sort of marksman. There are some that are actually good marksmen. A good friend named Mark that uses 6.5, and he can take shots at a mile. And he does it routinely nowadays, from what I've heard. So, not degrading anybody that picks a 6.5. You do you. It's just that it's kind of confusing if you watch the American culture when it comes to guns. In the 40s through the 50s, we wanted marksman rifles in the United States, and even in the military. That's why we had the M1, the M14. The M14 still used in marksman competitions by both military branches that participate, that I believe, the Marine Corps and the Army. And I could be wrong. The other branches may also have marksman teams that use them also. I know that the Navy still uses to blow up mines out at sea, and they also use, the SEALs still use them as sniper rifles or designated marksman rifles. It's just, I think what we're at in the gun culture of our country is we keep circling back to something our boomer FUD parents knew. That there is no substitute for actual power of a cartridge. There's a trade-off, though. The weapons are usually heavier, the ammunition's usually heavier, but there's a reason for that. You can do more. The round is more capable of doing more. And it's not like we're all going to be knocking down doors and, sweeping, clearing houses and stuff. None of that. What I see happening is that as the 2A takes off and it gets more and more popular, I see people looking for that one rifle. That mentality that if I just have one rifle, it'll do everything I need it to do. And that AR-10 type or full battle rifle actually fits that category very well. And here's why. If you needed to suppress someone, if you were actually going to have to clear a house, you're at a disadvantage because of the size of a battle rifle, a full-size battle rifle. Let me pause there. The definition of a full-size battle rifle is something about 38 inches or longer. Okay? So, look at FNFAL, HKG3, or any of its derivatives or clones, AR-10s. Those would be the Scar Heavy or the Scar 16. Those would be full-size battle rifles, modern battle rifles. Modern-ish in the case of the FNFALs, and in the case of the PTRs and the HKG3 derivatives. Those are what I'm talking about. But for newer shooters or people that have gotten at a certain experience level, they know that they're not going to be doing the ninja stuff that SWAT teams are going to do. but they're probably looking at what they would need to do for hunting. So these rifles fill a niche of being defensive weapons because they have the capacity to, or the capability to, but they also can down large game, big game like deer, elk. So it makes sense, especially if you're in the Southwest, why people are trying out the battle rifle again. It's just funny to someone like me outside looking in, being a gun guy, that it seems like our boomer dads and grandpas had this same discussion around the 50s, 60s, because that's where you saw the FNFAL, the M14, and the G3 rifles, the original versions of them. So this isn't a new conversation. It's a reoccurring theme, especially in the United States. And I think if you go back to it, it's because we're all wanting to be marksmen. One, proficient with the weapon. But two, we aren't idiots in the United States, despite what a lot of people in the world think of, with guns. And a lot of us can take a shot at over 300 yards. It's more prevalent than I used to think. It used to be that I would think that if you were a long-range shooter, and long range, I'm talking 300 and beyond. That's how my dad would say it. If you're a long-range shooter, you have a set of skills that used to be something that they thought was so rare you couldn't do it. Like they used to say there's only like 5 or 6 people could make a shot at like 600 yards with a 5-mile-an-hour crosswind. That's still kind of true if you're trying to thread a needle. But if you're trying to take out something, say, the size of an elk or a man, just to stop them, or to actually fall an elk, that's not that hard, because an elk, a big bull elk, is about a yard by a yard is where its kill zone is. Maybe a little smaller if you want to get more precise and anal about what I'm saying. But their lungs, heart, and liver are about that much of their body cavity. So it's easier to hit a larger target, especially at a longer distance, or a distance farther away, I should say, not longer. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's the hope that we will be able to, boldly defend our country and our family with these battle rifles because of their capabilities. Maybe it's just the new fad. The truth is, we all still probably have AR-15s too. And if you're going to be fighting in a close-in area, like a town or a city, that makes a hell of a lot more sense than a battle rifle, just because of size. Even with them being adjustable in size, sort of, you're worried about over-penetration when you're in those type of environments, and those type of cartridges do go through a lot more. That's why they got them, is because they're more powerful. Make the tool fit the job, right? Don't make the job fit the tool. Sounds stupid, but it really does work, especially in firearms. I just think it's kind of interesting, like I said, that these conversations, if you really want to get anal, you can look at the 6.5 Creedmoor. Parrott's ballistics with some really good optimized 243 cartridges, and see which one comes on top, or 25-06. And what you start seeing is that ballistically, our boomer FUD dads may have been onto stuff way back in the day that we're just rediscovering with new materials. Don't get me wrong, the 6.5 Creedmoor is impressive. It's a monument to new technology. But if you apply those technologies to any of the older calibers, it makes them just as effective, if not more. It's kind of scary seeing what our original fathers of the 2A, the caliber designers, were thinking that far ahead, or had that they latched onto something that was that impressive. Take, for instance, like a 308 or a 30-06. Today, if you buy ammunition or you manufacture it with the correct propellants and the right projectiles, you're going to get a lot more accurate and a lot more precision and a lot more speed out of these cartridges than you would have originally got when they were originally designed. Same goes with pistol cartridges. Today's 380 is not the same as it was in 1980. That said, it's all about, with pistols, it's always about shot placement, just like anything else. I wonder if this is something ingrained in American DNA, that we're always going to go back to that. We want that quasi-precision rifle, if not needing it, because we know we want to have to put, we know we may have to. We don't want to have to. We may have to put food on the table, and using a 308 seems more humane, or a 6.5 is way more humane, both of those calibers, or even the 6.8 if you can find the unicorn tiers that they are. I don't know. I'm a fan of the battle rifle. I always have been, but that's because I think my dad got me into the boomer rifle ideas. I like 308 battle rifles. I have two. Both of them are HKG3 styles. They're heavy. That's the one thing I can say about battle rifles, is they're always heavier. But I also feel very capable and very well armed with it. Having 20 rounds, it doesn't seem like a disadvantage with a 308 to me. However, I'm more so afraid that if I had to use it in my house, I would be deaf because it is a 308 in a very tight, compact space that you're letting off one of those rounds in. Doesn't mean I won't do it. That's not my preferred idea there, or ideal caliber for that. But I also like it. My particular choice for battle rifle, the PTR, I like their magazines, and I like the price of their magazines especially. Back just a couple years ago, you could get 20-round military spec, military issue magazines for the G3 style rifles for around $3. Fast forward now, they're about 8 to 10, and some places I've seen them as much as 20. I've got a ton of them because they were cheap back in the day, and I have two of these rifles to run. Maybe I'm just reading too much into what I'm seeing on the news, the gun blogs, I should say, not the news. The gun blogs and everywhere else, I see there's a lot of focus on AR-10s, and it's becoming more and more popular. I think that also has to go back to materials catching up. Today's AR-10s are not the ones that were originally designed. The AR-10 really never took off because the cartridge overpowered the design, sort of. And what I mean by that is, you ended up with, it was so light and handy, that rifle was, the recoil would have been tremendous, or not as, you would have been more effective with something with a smaller caliber, is the best way I can put that. That's kind of what happened, in fact. That's why they made the M16, based off the AR-10 design. Maybe I'm full of crap, like I said, though. But I've seen, what was really shocking was today I saw someone post up that they are going to make, Zastava USA is going to make the M76, which is kind of like the PSL, sort of. If you don't know what a PSL is, it's a 7.62x54R. But the Zastava USA is going to make that rifle again. It used to be an 8 Mauser, and it was their DMR for their military at Yugoslavia. Slovenia now is where Zastava is. They're going to make a 308 battle rifle, I guess you could say, in that size. So it's an oversized AK. Everybody confuses the PSL and the M76 as the Dragunov. They work on different design principles. especially in their trigger groups and what they do. One of them